Hi, welcome to my channel Mostly Knitting. If you're a returning viewer, thank you so much for coming back. And if you're new here, I'm Tash, and this is a weekly podcast where I share mostly about the knitting that I've been doing during the week, and I also put out regular tutorials. So it is the 31st of July and I'm recording in Sydney, Australia. So I've got one finished object this week and I am wearing it, and that is Snow Wonder by Heidi Kirrmaier, and I knit it out of Rerum Natura Gilliat in the colorway Ciel, and it's this really beautiful icy blue color, which is very similar to the color of yarn that was in the design. I think Heidi used Brooklyn Tweed Shelter, and I think the Gilliat is a really good substitution because it's sort of a similarly spun yarn, similar weight, and I got gauge. So I knit the size that was about the sort of small one, and it actually ended up, I used the recommended needles of 4mm for the ribbing, 4.5mm for the body, and it weighs 367 grams. So I thought for some crazy reason I could get it out of 3 skeins. I think I was planning on knitting the extra small. Anyway, I needed to order an extra ball, so 367 grams, well within four balls, but definitely, no way I could get it out of 3. So, and I've made it like a pretty standard sort of fit of 3 inches of positive ease, so it's measuring 35 inches in the bust. It's got this really lovely snowflake design with the bobbles. I've made it full length, so it's 13.5 inches from the underarm to the hem. And I did, let me see what else. Oh, also, 35-inch bust, and the sleeves are 17 inches, which is, just fine for me. It sort of has a little bit of room in the arm side, which is what I would want for a jumper with a bit of positive ease. And I think it's really lovely. The bobble technique, I'm doing another pattern now that has bobbles that are quite different. So I thought I'll just mention this bobble technique has quite actually I'll take it off and show you in a minute, but it's not as loosey-goosey and loopy as the other bobbles that I'm doing. So you actually knit into the front and the back and then the front of the stitch, so turning 1 stitch into 3. Then you turn your work, purl those 3 stitches, turn your work, knit those 3, turn your work, purl those 3. And if you can knit backwards, it's probably pretty handy because there's so many bobbles in here. By the time I thought about that, I was already partway through the design, and I was a bit worried that that might change my tension and my bobbles, like from here down, might be a different size. So I just stuck with the same method. But if I was to do this again, which I don't think I would, not because it's not I'm delighted with this, but it's a bit of a sort of a statement piece, and it's not something that I could see myself having 10 of in my wardrobe in all different colors. I love it in this color, and I think that's kind of my one Snow Wonder, but I'm super happy with it, and it's winter here, so I'm looking forward to wearing it. So anyway, on that bobble technique, after you finish turning back to the right side, you then, I think you just do like a decrease where you slip 2, knit 1 past the 2 over, so you turn the 3 back into 1. Then I did the method in the following row to tighten it up a little bit, because just to the right of the stitch it's a little bit loose. So I did a method to which was in the pattern to tighten it up a bit, just about sort of picking up a bar between the stitch before the bobble and the bobble stitch, and knitting it together with that stitch just to tighten it up a little bit. But I still found that stitch could be a little bit loose, so I needed later on to go back and I did this on the wrong side, and I put a video out last weekend, so I'll pop a link to that above. Just how you can actually I do it on the wrong side. I think you can do it on the right side too, but I find it easier on the wrong side to ease out the tension on a loose stitch, to sort of ease the slack that's in the yarn into the stitches that are sort of, so instead of one really large stitch, you've got sort of 5 or 6 slightly larger stitches, so you don't really see this really gappy stitch. And I think it looks really good. So it's this one here, maybe it's this one here, I can't remember. One side is like a little bit loose, but like from as a visual, like when you're just wearing the sweater, it doesn't look bad. I don't think so. Anyway, I think it looks really good. So I'll stand up and show you. Nice full length, deep ribbing. So the ribbing is actually only 1 needle size smaller, and I think that sort of just adds to the kind of the casual look. It's a 2x2 rib. I know you can do a tubular bind off with a 2x2 rib, but I just didn't feel the need to. I was happy just with a binding off in pattern. And yeah, I'm just delighted with it. I love it. It's so cozy. I actually wore it all day today, and it's kept me warm, and it feels like it's really nice next to Skin Soft. Really, really lovely and squishy, and it was really nice to work with. So I don't think I have anything else to say except I'm really happy the pattern was really clear. Heidi's patterns are always really well written, very easy to follow the instructions. There's no wondering, do I do this? She gave 4 different options for, creating even tension with the bobbles. And so I think that technique for this bobble creates quite a nice defined structured bobble, which I think is really important for this particular design because you have so many and you have them all so close to each other. So each one needs to be quite sort of tight. So I am quite glad I didn't sort of change technique and start knitting backwards partway through, because that might have changed my tension as well. And I like that they're quite firm little bobbles. So that's it. That's my one finished object for the week. So I'm going to do my friend from the vault section now, and I'm actually going to show something I don't often show, which is a pair of socks. And I have knit a fair few socks over the years, but it's not my primary knitting. I find it can be a little bit hard on my hands just with the tightness that I knit socks. And so I always need to have another project on the needles at the same time. So the pair of socks that I wanted to show you is called Marlene by Cookie A. And I knit these, you can see I've worn them quite a bit. I did just wash them though, so that's just like, just hasn't come out in the wash. This is Marlene by Cookie A, and I do have two socks. And this is a pattern, I made this, I'm not sure when the pattern came out, but I made this in 2011, 2012. It took me a really long time to make it because it was a lot of twisted stitches. So I'll just show you the design. It's a really beautiful top-down sock. It's got like twisted stitches on the heel and everything. And it took me a while, partly because of the twisted stitches. So tight knitting, twisted stitches, it was definitely hard on my hands, so I needed to take breaks. But I'm really, really happy with the outcome. So I knitted on a 2.75mm needle. It's actually knit for sport weight yarn. And I used Colinette Jitterbug in the colourway Whirley Fig. So each sock weighs 59 grams, and I actually only had 118 gram skein, so I only just made it out of the 2 skeins. And it's not even the kind of one where I'll just do a different colour for the toe. So yeah, I was getting a little bit nervous at the end, and I don't normally like playing yarn chicken, and that does make me nervous about doing a top-down sock. Anyway, all's well that ends well, because I did manage to get them out of the one skein. And yeah, I love wearing them because they're sport weight. I don't often wear them in shoes. I kind of have to wear them in boots or something that has got a bit more room. But I just think they are just the prettiest design. So that's Marlene by Cookie A, and I'll link to that. I'm just trying to think where it was. Cookie A used to put out a lot of sock patterns. I don't even know if she still designs anymore, but I bought a sock book, Knit Sock Love. I think the only socks I've knit from there are the monkey socks, which are a free pattern anyway on Knitty. So, but it's a beautiful book, and they're beautiful to look at. I just don't do a lot of pattern socks. I have made a number of monkey socks, which I think I've shown earlier, both from top down, and you can switch that quite easily and just do it toe up. But yeah, I was especially proud of these because I love the colour, and yeah, I just really love, I love the look of twisted stitches, and I love that design. So yep, that's my friend from the vault. And yeah, I think that's actually, I don't think I've almost ever had any socks that have actually blown out, like where the heel has gone, or it's I've worn through. So I guess and I wear them pretty fair bit. I'm actually wearing a pair right now. So anyway, that's my friend from the vault. So now I'm up to my works in progress. So I have one small new work in progress on the needles, and that is a new pair of the Skimmer Socks by Sheila Toy Stromberg. All I've done is the toe, because I was going for a walk and I didn't have any projects that were ready to go to take for a walk. So, and I didn't have any socks on the needles, so I started a new one. All I've done, I haven't even finished the toe. I've only just started them. And so this yarn is the Sandnes Garn Sunday in the colourway 4008. And I just cast on as recommended with 24 stitches. I haven't even got to 64 yet. This is actually quite a light fingering yarn, so I'm not sure if 64 stitches will be enough, so I'll have to play it by ear a little bit and just sort of see how it's, how it's measuring against some of my other pairs. I'm knitting that on a 2.25mm needle. I knew I had enough left because I had 40 grams, and I think I only need about 34 to 36 grams for a pair of these socks. Now, I don't know if this yarn has any nylon in it. I didn't even look it up, but I think my socks are generally in pretty high rotation. I have quite a few pairs, and I've never, like I said earlier, I've never had a pair of socks blow a hole out in the toe or the heel or anything. And so we'll see. I'll keep an eye on them actually as I'm wearing them, and maybe reinforce it if I need to. But anyway, that's my one little new work in progress. Other current whips have had a lot of work on them, particularly the one that I'm wearing at the moment, which is Magnolia Bloom by Camilla. So I am knitting this out of Rerum Natura Ulysse in the colourway Bruyere, and I'm holding it with Hedgehog Fibres Kidsilk lace in the colourway Purr. So those two colours are singing really nicely together. So I hold one strand of this and two strands of the mohair, and I used slightly smaller needles. So I used a 5.5 for the ribbing, and I did do I actually did a provisional cast on, so it made it just a little bit easier to then knit that down, because I just unpicked the provisional cast on. Then I changed to a 6.5mm needle, and the rest of the body has been worked on that. Now I'm knitting the size medium. Sorry, I do have a bit of fluff floating around. I'm knitting the size medium, which is the third size, but my gauge is a little bit tighter. So the pattern gauge is 12 stitches and I'm getting 15 stitches. So I'm expecting the medium should end up closer to the extra small. So I'm hoping around 35 to 37 inch size, which is, I actually haven't measured it, so I'll measure it and just pop it down here. But I actually feel really good about whatever size I have. I'm feeling really happy about it because I think it's sitting really nicely. The bobbles, I did a little bit of swatching with bobbles, and just all I did was unravel a few rows of my swatch and did a few different kinds of bobbles. And then I barely had enough yarn to bind, or I didn't even have enough yarn to bind off, but I had enough yarn to do the row after. So with the bobbles, I investigated using a crochet hook, all different kind of methods, but I actually found just doing what was mentioned in the pattern pretty much seemed to work quite well for me. So this bobble is very different to the bobble in Snow Wonder. This bobble is very kind of loose and loopy, I guess, whereas the bobble in Snow Wonder has all of these have been sort of knit, purl, knit. So there's a lot of, rather than just lots of loops of yarn overs, whereas this one here, and also here you knit in, you do the same. So here, the way the pattern's written is you knit into the front, the back, the front, the back, the front, the back. So you get 6 stitches on the needles. Now there's something weird in the pattern where it actually says bind the last 5 over the first. But the only way you could bind the last 5 over the first would be if you put them all over back onto the left needle to get them up over the first. So I didn't do that. I just, all 6 were on the right needle, and then I put the first 5 over the last one. So, and I've recorded a video. I haven't uploaded it and edited it and uploaded it yet, but I did record a video. So there's other methods so that's what it's pretty close to what the pattern said, basically, where you're just knitting into the front, back, front, back, front, back. So you've got 6 loops on your needle. Other methods, like I watched a video, I think with Andrea Mowry, where you can use a crochet hook or a needle, but you sort of knit into the stitch, yarn over, knit into the stitch, yarn over, knit into the stitch, etc. And you get 7 stitches on the needles, and then you pull the yarn through all of them. I played around with that. I didn't like doing it, and I also didn't like the result as much as these ones. The other thing there was she was saying that quite often the bobble pops to the wrong side, whereas I haven't had that happen at all with these. These are all sitting completely on the right side. They're not popping through to the back. The pattern's quite clever in the sense that quite a lot of these ones down here have increases around the bobble, like make one increases, which when you do a make one, you steal some yarn from the row below and it sort of tightens up the work around it, which actually helps to tighten up the stitches around the bobble. So that's quite, I mean, obviously it's a good place to do the increase, and it also then just avoids having holes around the bobble. So yeah, I'm really happy with how that's going, or how those bobbles have come out. I've finished all the bobble rounds, and they didn't even take me that long actually. I actually quite liked doing them, and they didn't take very long. Sorry, I just had to stop and adjust my tripod. I noticed that the camera was sort of tilting downwards as I was speaking, but I think everything's tightened up now. So the other thing that I did say, like, let's say maybe not these bobbles here, but this one here, there isn't an increase around it. So if I'm finding that stitch next to it is a little bit loose, I might try that technique where you sort of twist the stitch and then wrap it over the bobble to sort of help it pop out a little bit and to tighten up the stitch, sort of kill two birds with that one stone. But yeah, like I've just kind of been addicted to knitting this. I absolutely loved knitting the whole yoke, and I'm just trying to think. I've pretty much followed the medium size exactly in terms of, haven't changed anything in terms of the cast on stitches or whatever. Let me think. But I am, like, my gauge is obviously a little bit tighter, and I'm using smaller needles. So now I've split for the sleeves. I'm up to just working my way down the body, and I'm not sure how much I've done actually, probably about 4 or 5 inches. I am really hopeful that I'm not going to, I don't like being in this position, but I'm a little bit, it's going to be fine. I just want to say this straight up. I was a little bit worried about running out of yarn because I still have quite a bit of the body to go, and then this is all I've got left of, I've got one full skein of the mohair, and then this, which I'm knitting, like pulling from both ends at the moment. I have heaps of this. So what I think I'm going to do, just if there's any, I should be fine. I've got 1,260 meters, which held double is 630. And when I've looked at other people's projects, that should be enough for the size medium. I haven't made it, I'm not planning to make it bigger or longer or doing anything, like have a tunic length or anything. But what I'm thinking, if there's any hint that I might run close, because this is being held double with this, what I might do when I get to the cuffs, I might do just holding this single with this. So that's my sort of, just in case if anything happens and I start to run out of yarn. Certainly for the sleeve cuffs and maybe even the body. I'm hoping I won't need to do that for the body ribbing, but perhaps for the sleeve cuffs, if I need to, I could just hold this single. Anyway, which I think would totally work. It might make the gauge a tiny bit tighter, but I mean, that's not going to make a big difference in the cuffs anyway, right? Because it's meant to pull in the cuffs. So, yep, so that's my Magnolia Bloom. I think it's really, really lovely. It's a really beautiful design. I was a bit worried that this would be like too high up here, but I think with the, once it's sort of all finished and I've got the sleeves and everything, it's sitting, just like at a nice height. So it's going to be a warm sweater, right? So I like that it's up reasonably high. And I also like the fact that should cover most t-shirts, right? So, because it's a fairly high neckline, but not crazy high. And this is so soft. This yarn is beautifully soft. So, yep, so that's Magnolia Bloom by Camilla Vat. So my third work in progress is Woolen Berries by Joji Locatelli, and I'm knitting it out of Cardiff Cashmere Classic in like a cream colorway and a navy colorway. And compared to last week, I think I've done 3 sections of the blue, and I've also picked up for the neckband. So I'm knitting the smallest size. My gauge is a tiny bit tighter, so I think it is coming out at around 32 inches, which is, or maybe 33 inches, is about an inch of positive ease, which I feel good about. And I am glad that mine is turning out a little bit smaller because, like, I knit these shoulder panels to, I think, 5.5 inches instead of 6. Now I will be picking up for the sleeves there, so but I just think anything longer than that would be too long. So yeah, I'm just working my way down the body. Each stripe, I think the blue is 5 rows and the cream is 8. In the pattern, Joji says like that you can carry the other color up the side for the stripes, but I don't really like doing that. I actually prefer to cut that. It's quite a lot, like 8 rows to carry, and then I just find you've got this strand, you can't play around with the tension at all because you don't have an end of yarn to sort of weave in, and also I'm doing jogless stripes, which can mess with the tension a little bit. So the method for jogless stripes is one that I think I used years back from Jared Flood's Turner Square hat. Basically you just knit one round with the new colour, and then you lift up the right bar of the first stitch of the old colour and put it on the needles, and then knit that together. I'll put a link to Andrea Mowry's video for it because her video is really clear, but that's basically the technique. And yeah, I think it's I don't even know where the start of round is. Actually, good point, I'm not sure, but I have actually been, where is it? Sorry, I just got a yeah, it's over here. You can see all of my yarn tails. I will be using those tails to weave in like any areas of, like, you know, maybe do a duplicate stitch if it needs to improve that tension just on the side. So for me, I don't really mind weaving in a few extra ends. Like, it's not a crazy amount, and particularly, you know, to end up with a result that I'm happy with. So yeah, lots of straight stockinette now. The only thing will be, you know, just determining once I finish the last stripe, because it's meant to have 6. You know, deciding on length. But I've got plenty of yarn. I've got eight balls of this one and 2 of this one. So, and I know that's going to be plenty. I mean, if I needed to, I'd order more, because I already plan to order some of this in the black for another poppy tee eventually. But yes, so anything else I wanted to mention? I'm knitting 1 needle size up, so I'm using a 4mm and a 4.25. And oh yeah, I did do a tubular bind off, which isn't in the pattern, but I chose to because it's a 1x1 rib, and you know, I think a tubular bind off looks nice. One thing I did, and I did this on the wrong side, so I did a German short row and turned. I'll put a link to where I show that technique, and then turned and then knit, you know, with the reverse side showing. Then when it comes to the tubular bind off, you don't actually have to reverse again. You can just do the 2 setup rounds and then do the tubular bind off from the wrong side. The only thing I do, and I don't know if it makes any difference, but I reverse the 2 rows for the tubular bind off. So I slip all the pearls first, because obviously a pearl on the wrong side is a knit on the right side. So so instead of slipping the pearls and then after that slipping the knits, I do it the other way around. I slip the knits in the first row, slip the pearls in the second. I don't actually know that it matters, but just in case, that's what I did. And then I do the tubular bind off from the wrong side, which, like, it's just a needle going through, so it shouldn't make any difference which way, whether you've got it holding this way, putting the needle through, or holding it the other way. So it just saves doing another German short row and turning and trying to do the tubular bind off setup rows at the same time. So yeah, I'm really happy with this. I mean, the yarn I've mentioned before is so soft, and like, I can't wait to work with it again, and I'm looking forward to being able to, I think this will be a really classic to wear with like my navy pants for work as a sweater, just with like a simple tee underneath, and then this as a really nice cashmere sweater on top. So that's this is work in progress number 3. I forgot to mention, I've been trying to mention how long things have been on my needles for. So Wool and Berries I cast on, I think, 9 days ago, and Magnolia Bloom I cast on 8 days ago. This is my 4th work in progress, and this is the Champagne cardigan, and I cast it on July the 3rd, so that's 28 days ago, so 4 weeks ago. And I'm this is by Petite Knit, and I'm knitting it out of this vintage yarn, Shepherd Supreme, and Knit Picks Aloft in the colourway Oat. And I was a bit, not so much concerned that I was going to run out of yarn, but more that if I made the body too long, then I would run out of yarn. So I was pretty sure it was going to be workable either way, but I just had to be careful in terms of the order that I did things to make sure that I didn't do the button band and then run out with like this much left of the button band. And, you know, whereas if I had have knit it half an inch shorter in the body, I wouldn't have run out, because I can't. So the way this is constructed, so I'll show you what I've done so far since last week. I have finished the body and done the ribbing, and I've done a tubular bind off. I feel like in this last week I've just been doing tubular bind offs, like maybe 3 or 4 of them in the last week. Anyway, so one thing I did differently was I did one, I'm pretty short too, I'm only 5'2", So I'm not a very tall person, and I had a feeling like this cardigan was going to, swim on me. So I've made it a little bit smaller because my row gauge was short. I'm using the recommended needles and everything. I'm a 4.5mm needle, and my gauge is correct, but even the smallest size I think was going to be too big for me. My row gauge was different to to the pattern's row gauge, so I did these increases a little more frequently because my rows were taller. So I did these increases, so I got to this stitch count where I'd finished the V neck quicker, which meant I had less raglan increases, and I just didn't do any more of those. I just stopped once I got to the point where I needed to for this, and so I've probably got about 6 less stitches on the front and back and the sleeves. So, and it's still quite big, right? So what I ended up doing, just to conserve yarn but still get it to a length that I would like, was I did 1 less centimetre, so about a bit less than half an inch on the back, in the stockinette section, and I've got 3 inches of ribbing here instead of 4 inches of ribbing, which I think is fine on me. So here's my markers. Here's where the V is going to be, and you can see, and I've still got to do a button band, so it's still going to be, a button band obviously, and then one will go over the other, but it's plenty long, right? This is not going to be a cropped cardigan. I've started one sleeve and I've used 1 ball here, so I'm quite confident that I'm going to get to be able to finish this without running out of yarn. But what I'm going to do next is I will actually do the button band next, and then I'll just make sure, like the sleeves you can see are really oversized, so I might just sort of get a bit more rapid in my increases in my sleeves if I need to, but I don't think I'm going to run out of yarn. I think by the time I've unraveled my swatches, which is a fair bit of yarn in them. But yeah, one of the reasons I've done a bit, right? I've finished the body, but Magnolia Bloom has had my attention lately. And the other thing, of course, is I need to pay attention to pick up for this double knit band, particularly when I get to the buttonholes, because there's a bit of, you definitely do some different stuff when it comes to the buttonholes, and I need to make sure I'm on it for what I need to do there. So yeah, but I've made some good progress. I finished the body, and I think I'll just generally feel better once I've done the button band, but I just need to make sure I've got, headspace, maybe this weekend. No, not this weekend, maybe next weekend. So I'm not sure that this one is going to get any attention in the next week, but I've got plenty of other stuff to work on. Right, so that's work in progress number 4. Work in progress number 5 is Charisma by Martin Story. So last week I had just finished doing all the short rows for the front and the back, and the progress that I've made on this week is I have done the 3 needle bind off for the sleeves, and I've done the ribbing. So I'll pop it on. You can see. Get over my head. So I've done picked up for the ribbing, and I think I just did a normal bind off for that, but I did do the twisted rib, and I did it's a half twisted rib, but in the pattern you would have been only twisting the knits every other row, but I actually twisted the knits every row, but didn't twist the pearls. Right, so I've sewn that, and look, I think that is a lot neater than I would have gotten if I had to do mattress stitch with I think maybe, I don't know how many short rows there were a lot. It would have been really painful to mattress stitch that up. So where am I up to now on it? The next step for me is to sew these sections up to here from the cast on to this marker, and then pick up stitches around. So once that's sewn, pick up stitches around and do the sleeve cuff. So I've obviously got to do that on both sides. Then I need to unravel this provisional cast on and knit the bottom. So there's still a bit to do, but the nice thing is actually I quite like by doing the bottom at the end, I'll be able to get a length that I'm happy with, because just to be able to tell how blousy do I want it, it'll be yeah, anyway, so that's coming along well. I'm very happy with how that's going. And so that's, I think, work in progress. Where was I up to? Number 5 now. I've got 2 more to show. So my 6th work in progress is the Clover Tee by Lena Hom Samso, and I'm knitting this out of Cascade Ultra Pima in the colourway Buff. So I did a Judy's Magic cast-on version of the Tubular cast-on on a 3.25mm needle, and I cast on the recommended number of stitches of 98 stitches, and it's a little bit tight. I mean, it's okay, but it's a bit higher up than I would have liked. And I found that quite interesting because this was a 3.25mm just for the cast on, and then I switched to a 3mm for the ribbing. For my anchor summer shirt out of this bamboo, I did the same cast on, slightly larger needle, like a 3.5mm needle, 88 stitches, so 10 less stitches, and this is heaps more, like heaps larger. So this is bamboo, so I'm sure that the content has something to do with it as well. So for the bamboo, that cast on was really fine and actually probably quite good to create the stability. But for the cotton, it's just probably a little bit tighter than I would like. So I do plan to do a different cast on. I do want some stability, but maybe this one's just a little bit. So when I come to do the Peacock Tee, I will do the 98 stitches, similar to the Clover Tee, but I probably won't do that cast on. Anyway, so I switched to a 3mm needle, then 3.75mm needle for the body. I'm knitting the smallest size. I did end up doing 1 extra raglan increase because I was worried that the yoke depth was going to be too short, which it clearly isn't. In fact, it's probably even marginally too long. So I wouldn't do that again. The other thing is I'm wearing this nude camisole so that it just looks like one colour, because these two repeats, if I was to make this again, I would definitely cut out these 2 repeats of the clovers. I would stop the design here. I'm fine with, like, I didn't rip back. I'm fine with that because as long as I'm wearing something nude underneath, I'm totally okay. But if I was doing it again, I wouldn't do those last 2. So I've done the sleeves now since last week, and another tubular bind off, both sleeves. The other thing I didn't do was the sleeves had you do a bunch of increases even between here and here, and I didn't do any, and I'm glad I didn't because, I think that's plenty. I wouldn't want it any tighter than that. So I've still got a little bit of, I've got these stoppers on the end just to make sure that doesn't come off. I don't have heaps more. So I definitely have some ease. I'll measure it and put down below. I forgot to mention actually Charisma. I keep forgetting. Charisma's been on the needles for 74 days, and this one, when did I start this one? I started the Clover Tee on the 10th of July, so this has been on the needles for 3 weeks, so 21 days. Obviously I'm working on lots of different things, but yeah, I think I can probably get this done by next week, I reckon. I'd love to get Magnolia Bloom done though, because that would be but on 6.5mm needles with Magnolia Bloom, that should move pretty quickly. Anyway, maybe I could get both done by next week. We'll see how we go. So, because yes, it's just straight down and then ribbing at the end. The only thing I have to work out now is length. But I've pretty much modelled the sort of sizing for this one similar to my Anchor Summer shirt. Although this one's actually so drapey, so lovely. This one's drapey, but certainly not as much as this one. But in terms of length, I did the sleeve length pretty similar, and I'll probably do the body length pretty similar to this one, so not too much more to go. Right, and then I just have the one last work in progress, which is my Musselbubrgh Hat by Isolde Teague. I'm knitting that on a 3.25mm needles out of Madeline Tosh Merino Light in the colourway Neon Peach. And this is the reason I had to cast on socks for my walk, because I got to the point where I was like, I think I'm almost ready to switch to the antler. So that's my second colour. So I think I've done about, I did actually put a progress keeper in. That was my, colour's so bright. That's my progress keeper from where I was last week. So I knit 27 rows. So it doesn't always feel like you're knitting that much, but when you put a marker in there, it's like, actually I did quite a bit. So I just do this when I'm on playground duty or when I'm going for a walk. So, but I did want to make sure I think from memory, some of my others I've knit about, after the last increase, I've knit about 75 rows. I think I'm at about 73 rows since the last increase. So, when I get to halfway, I'm almost there now. I'm going to switch to the antler. Then it can become my walking knitting again. So I already did a version of this, but gave it away, and I really would like to have another one, have one for myself, because I really liked that combination, just where you've got when you fold up the brim, you see one colour underneath and then the other one just on the brim. So, and I think I like it like that for the hat and that for the brim. So that's, and when did I start this? Oh, sorry, I'm so disorganised. I was running around this morning. So when did I start this? I started this on, my Mac is so old, July the 11th. So 20 days, right? But, who's counting with Musselbubrgh? It just, when it gets done, it gets done. I guess I've never really bothered counting with it. When people ask you, oh, how long did it take you to knit that? I feel like I can never give a satisfactory answer to that, because it's like, well, if this was the only thing I was knitting, and I'm not really even sure what they're really asking. Like what's the point of the question? How long did it take you to knit it? I don't know. It'd be better to measure it in hours than days. Like, how many hours did I spend on this project? Like socks, normal socks, like calf length socks is sort of 15 to 20 hours of knitting for me. I did work that out once. But a jumper, it just depends. Depends on the yarn, the gauge. Is it complicated? Anyway. It's a funny question. I generally say I don't know. A few weeks, it depends. Right, so I'm up to acquisitions and plans. So the only acquisition I have this week is not yarn. It's actually a book, and I was given this by one of the teachers at work. So it's Mathematics for Human Flourishing by Francis Sue. I went to a talk at my school that he gave, it was really interesting, and so I was gifted that, and I'm looking forward to reading that. Let me see, plans. The only I've been casting on quite a few things lately, but I'm making a lot of good progress on them. The only other plan, sort of immediate plan that I have, and I just started a new swatch, and that is Fiola by Isabel Kramer. I think that's going to be my next sweater on the needles, because I'm really keen to use this Mayak baby lace. So I already did a swatch with 3.75 millimeter needles, which are the recommended needles for the pattern, and this is the recommended yarn for the pattern, held double. The gauge for the pattern is 21 stitches, and I got washed and blocked 24 stitches, and that might just be I think the smallest size is like 37 3/4 inches. So if I knit it at 23 stitches, I get about 32.5 inches for the bust, and that's about right for me. I think I think it's meant to be a fairly, for me anyway, a fitted-ish sweater. So I think what I decided to do was, I've only just started, I'm going to do another swatch on a 4 millimeter needle just to see how what my gauge is, and do I like that fabric. So, because I did like the fabric on the 3.75, but I think it's sort of meant to be a bit airy and drapey. So I think, so anyway, I'm going to finish this swatch and wash it and block it. And because I really, really want to start using, I was just so excited to try this yarn. That's why I started with, that's the Cardiff Classic Cashmere. One of the reasons I sort of jumped on and started Woolen Berries, and I'm feeling quite directed by yarn at the moment, like yarn that I want to try. So yes, and I basically, so I can maybe order more of it if I like it and justify it, because I always feel weird buying too much of a yarn if I haven't worked with it. Either I haven't seen it, haven't worked with it, I don't know how it behaves. So like that tin silk mohair for my poppy tee, that's quite itchy. And nothing like the Purr, I don't know where it is, the Purr for the Magnolia, the Hedgehog Fibres Kidsilk lace, or the Knitting for Olive soft silk mohair. They are really next to skin soft, but that for my poppy tee, that's got quite a bit of a prickle factor. So I'll be fine because I'm not too sensitive, but I feel it, like I know it's there, and it's not as nice to wear. So so I would like to make another poppy tee out of this. And yes, I'm keen to try this and to try more of the Mayak yarns just in general. So that's it for my acquisitions and plans. What has caught my eye? Quite a few things actually. One is the Poet Tee by Sari Nordland, and she knit that out of the Rerum, or at least it's designed with the Rerum Natura Penelope. and that's the yarn that I used for Early Bloomer by Heidi Kirrmaier. And so the gauge for that is 20 stitches over 4 inches. So that yarn is like 90% merino, 10% silk. I didn't love working with it. It's a perfectly nice enough yarn, but I don't know, it was kind of a bit spongy in a not so nice way. Not like this, the Ulysse is spongy, but in like a nice way. I didn't really love the Penelope, but a 20 stitch gauge is a pretty, there's a lot of yarns you could substitute for that. So anyway, the Poet Tee by Sari Nordland, it just caught my eye and I thought it was really pretty. Another one by Sari Nordland was the Sun-Kissed Top. It was actually the back panel and lace that really caught my eye for it. But then when I saw the front, I was a bit like, oh, I don't like the front so much. So it's really doesn't have any finishing. Also because of the back, like I'm not sure how you'd wear a bra. It caught my eye, but it has some issues for me. But that back panel looks really pretty. So, and then like just in general, Sari generally designs stuff with a lot of really nice lace. So maybe I just put that in a different top, like the Kuta top, or that is probably going to work better for me and give me my lace fix. But it did catch my eye, and I thought it was quite arresting. It was very pretty. Another top that or tee that caught my eye was the Julienne tee by Lynn Holm Samso, and she's the one who did the Clover Tee and also the Peacock tee that I plan to make. So that is also made, so it's a nice striped top, very pretty, used using Sandnes Garn Lena, 20 stitch gauge. So again, easily substitutable and I think a pretty easy yarn to find. Not super easy here in Australia, but you can get it from overseas. So that caught my eye. I thought that was really sweet. I do just like a nice knit tee. Another thing that caught my eye was actually when I was watching Fruity Knitting with the interview with Joji Locatelli, which was amazing. Such a good episode. Was the Instant Crush, and so that's made out of magpie fibres, all silk mohair held double, and it's got a 19 stitch gauge. And yeah, the colours and the combinations are so beautiful. And there's a discount code for Patreon. Fruity Knitting Patreon supporters. So yeah, I'm thinking about that. Just umming and ahhing whether I'd buy yarn for it, because if I was going to make it, I would probably want to buy the yarn and even though I know it's substitutable, just those particular colours and seeing that combination. Yeah. Anyway, I'm thinking about it. Another top that I thought was really cute was the Strawberry Fields top, and that is by Camille K using Sandnes Garn Tin Lena. Or Knitting for Olive Pure Silk, and that has a 28 stitch gauge. Just looks like a really sweet little there's also a t-shirt version, then it's like a tank, so there's a top and a tee. So the top just has little straps, and then there's a tee version that has sleeves. And that also just introduced me to Camille K as a designer. I heard I went and had a quick look over on Ravelry. She has some really beautiful designs. So I haven't gone fully down that rabbit hole, but I will. I sort of was like mentally taking note. Oh, I like her work. Very feminine. Another two things that aren't patterns yet, but they caught my eye because I just saw them on Instagram. One is the Rainy Day Tee by Sari Nordland. So that's just in the designing phase, and it's got this sort of nice cables running down the raglan. So I like that kind of little extra design there. And the other thing is Low Tide. By Rachel, who is Unwind Knitwear, and it's being tested at the moment. Betsy, who is I'm Loving It, she put out a picture on Instagram, and it just looked really nice. And so the yarn that is called Uhuru by Happy Go Knitty, and it's a merino possum blend. So when I looked up that yarn, because I always find when I see these test knits, I'm like, what's the gauge? Like, what's the yarn? So I thought, well, at least if I look up the yarn, then I'll be able to tell what the gauge is. But the Uhuru has a 4-ply and an 8-ply version, so I still don't know what the gauge is, or I don't even really know what the yarn is. I know it's possum and merino and possum, but I don't know if it's the 4-ply version or the 8-ply version. Anyway, I'll come back to you on that when I guess either when it gets released or I find out more information. But yeah, it just looked really pretty. So that's it for what has caught my eye. Oh, no, it's not. There's one other thing that's what's caught my eye. I've actually watched them a few times now, but I thought I might as well mention it. It's a good place for me to mention a podcaster that or podcasters that I've found that I really enjoy, and Two Pearls in a Pod. They are two girls from Melbourne, and they're just so passionate about their knitting, and there's so much joy, and I love the way they interact together. And it's also quite nice just hearing because they're in like Australia, we have the same kind of, I guess, yarns available, and that kind of thing. Anyway, just their enthusiasm and their joy is really really infectious. I think one of them is going away, so I'm not sure whether they'll still be able to record when she's away for 6 months. Paige, I think is her name. Sorry, I'm blanking on it. I'm pretty sure it's Paige. Yes, anyway, I'm really enjoying. They've got a bit of a catalogue too, so I might go back and watch some of their old ones. Yes, I think that's it for what has caught my eye. Right, so I guess that's it, actually. That's it for the everything but the personal stuff. I'll jump into the personal stuff now. So, I was going to sew. I haven't sewn. I was going to warp up the loom. I haven't done it. I just totally rested and knit. So anyway, if you're leaving now, thank you so much for watching. I will be back next week with another... I'm going to mention it now, because even though I'm getting onto personal stuff, maybe I will just mention... there's a guild retreat coming up. See, it's knitting related, so it's not just totally unrelated. So I'll mention this because it's knitting related. So there's a Knitters Guild retreat on this weekend in the Stamble Tops down, which is not that far from me because I'm in the southern part of Sydney. And my friend Beck is coming down from Brisbane, so she's arriving on Friday. We're going to go to Handmade Create in Alexandria, and we'll also pop into Skein Sisters, and then we'll head down to the retreat. And then I think Beck can stay with me on Sunday night. So maybe, I'll definitely take some footage when I'm down there. And I'm teaching a class on German short rows while I'm down there. And Anne Budd is coming, and I don't think I have any classes with her, but I've taken classes with her before. So, and she is amazing. So I'm really looking forward to that retreat and to getting to catch up with Beck, and hopefully we'll be able to do a recording together. So we'll get some footage from down there, and then when she comes back with me on Sunday, we'll do a recording. So that will be our next video that we'll put out. And yeah, so now I'll get on to, I think that's knitting related. So now I'll get on to the personal stuff. So if you're leaving now, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week with a video with me and Beck. So for the personal stuff, from last week, I just had my last few days of school holidays, which was really nice. I was going to do some sewing. I was going to warp up the loom. But on Saturday, I started reading Lessons in Chemistry. And I think where did I get to? I got that far in one day. So I was knitting and reading. And I think that's why I got so much progress on some of my stockinette in the round, because I was knitting and reading. And the only reason I stopped reading it, because I could have finished it that weekend, was the Olympics started. So I've been knitting and watching the Olympics, and that's another reason I've got so much knitting done. So I was like, I definitely was sewing, I have to pay attention, and certainly I haven't done any weaving for such a long time. That definitely will take quite a bit of attention. So I will get back to that at some point. But yes, anyway, for the last few days of the holidays, I just read and watched the Olympics and knit, and it was so nice. So it's been really good and relaxing, and so that's some of the stuff that I've been doing. I did go back to work on Monday. I had an 8 a.m. to 8 p.m. First day back at work with parent-teacher. That was okay. It was just a long day, and then I had to be back at work at 7 a.m. for my Year 12 class. So I was pretty tired by the end of yesterday. But today was my day off, and I went and I had a bone scan for my just to make sure everything's okay related to the arthritis symptoms that I've been having. So I'll see my doctor later and find out how that all went. But fingers crossed. And I met up with my daughter at the mall and had my thirds done. So I just had I had my seconds done. I think maybe about a year ago, and then I just had my thirds done. So I'll have them in for the next week. It was so expensive. They actually quoted me, it was crazy. They quoted me $168 just to get my ears pierced. This is skin candy. And I was like, seriously? Anyway, I just said, what's the budget option? So I found the budget option, which was still $80. That's Australian. And then I think I had something like $20 in credit there. So it ended up being $60, which is maybe about $40 US. But still, I just don't remember things costing that much. Anyway, I don't even think about it in the same way with yarn, but it just seemed like a lot, and then $168. Anyway, I didn't go for the fancy earrings, but I'm happy to have had them done, and then in 12 weeks' time I can change them out. So and had lunch with my daughter, which was nice. And yeah, anything else happening? No, I think that's kind of it. Just back to school, watching the Olympics. I love watching the gymnastics and the swimming and the diving, and I mean, I can watch anything, but like particularly love the gymnastics. And it's like every 4 years you get to see the best of the best. So yeah, I think that's probably what I'll be doing for the next couple of weeks as well. And hopefully we'll have enough internet down while we're down at the retreat to watch a bit of Olympics while I'm down there too. So anyway, I think that's it. I've been talking for quite a while. I'm hoping the sound is better. I borrowed my daughter's microphone, and yeah, fingers crossed. I did like a little test of the first few minutes and it seems okay. So yeah, let me know what you think, if it's better. Hopefully at least there isn't any more of that crackling noise. So that was coming from my phone. So I'll be using a microphone from now, which I've always been meaning to do anyway, so that just really pushed me towards it, so hopefully the sound's better. Anyway, I hope you're all having a great week. You're enjoying the Olympics if you're watching it, and enjoying, cheering for your country. And yeah, I'll be back in about a week. Thanks. Bye.